Welcome to another episode of the Daily Chat Podcast, where we talk about all things awesome and nerdy. Before we get going into this one, guys, this one is a bit of paying a bit of respects to a legend, as many of you know, as I'm pretty sure, as all of you know. Last week we lost possibly the most influential man in all of comic book history, or at least in our lifetime.
Without a doubt.
Without a doubt. We lost Stan Lee.
Yeah.
It was a very sad thing, but, you know, I'm sure we can all take comfort in the fact knowing that Stan Lee lived to be a good 95 years old.
He had a great run.
He had an amazing run.
And
honestly.
he lost Joni about, a year ago?
Was that his wife?
His wife, Joni, yeah, about a year ago. And it's definitely one of those types of things that when couples start getting up to that age, you know, when you lose one, just the heartache and the stress behind that.
It's only a matter of time.
Unbearable. And, of course, there was all those, you know, there was all the kind of tragedy and kind of weird shadiness going on around Stan Lee and people taking advantage of, you know, him and his legacy and, you know, pretty much propping him up at cons to have him sign stuff. Elderly abuse.
I got to be completely honest with you. I kind of saw some of that actually a few years ago. I went to a con. I actually went in the line to get his autograph, and I just felt bad for the guy because it was just a matter of, it just felt like there was an assembly line, and at the very end of it was just, you may as well have just put in a robot that looked like Stan Lee, just signing signatures and everything like that. So
I mean, that, you know, definitely there was some hardship there towards the end, but I mean, thinking about just the legacy that he left behind as far as comics, I mean, I put out that you know, kind of tribute on my Facebook page about Stan Lee and just all the good that he did in being, you know, a champion for equal rights between men and women, people of all colors, people of, you know, varying
he even created a very
sexual orientation.
He created a very thinly veiled allegory for it all.
Yeah, I mean, in the X-Men, and, you know, gave comics a lot of their soul that they have.
Exactly.
And, I mean, yeah, it blossomed into this multi-billion-dollar industry, you know, that we have now, but he made it more than just superheroes that, you know, beat up bad guys. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, there were real people attached to those superpowers. Like, they had real life dilemmas. Like, Peter Parker, aside from being Spider-Man, like, Peter Parker has real world shit he's got to deal with.
He's probably the most real world out of all of them, because it's like, when you deal with, like, Tony Stark, I mean, great character, don't get me wrong, but Tony Stark's biggest problem has always been himself. Yeah. And he's also a billionaire, so it's kind of tough to feel bad for him.
But also an alcoholic and a guy that struggles with, like, control issues and substance abuse issues. A total
womanizer.
Yeah, but, like, he has his own source of...
But don't get me wrong, I know that happens to people, and I'm not saying it's good when it happens to them.
Or, like, take a look at, like, the Incredible Hulk. Is a superhero who has boundless powers, but as a person is just completely alone and isolated in Bruce Banner. Yeah, you know, exactly. So he made comics really relatable, and he was able to tell stories that you could see yourself in and hopefully learn some sort of a moral and valuable lesson. I mean, that to me is, like, the biggest legacy that he left behind, is that you can use entertainment as teaching moments and as moments to, like, create a mirror for society to look back on and, you know, have us really think, is, you know, are these the values that we want? Like,
which over the years has really just become Marvel's MO, pretty much. Like, you know, it's like, don't get me wrong, like, as much as I enjoy the DC comic books, there's no denying it. Like, someone explained it to me best, that in the world of DC comics, they are gods trying to be men, whereas in the Marvel universe, it is just men trying to just deal with the fact that they're gods. Like, they don't, like, a lot of, like, the Sentry, for example, he doesn't want to be this powerful being.
No.
He never does, never has. Like, and, like, the Sentry is just basically Superman. Like, well, I think at this point, wouldn't you say, like, Hyperion is more of the...
oh, you mean the Sentry?
No, like, at this point, wouldn't you say Hyperion is more of the direct Superman ripoff that Marvel has? More so than the Sentry?
I always felt like it was the Sentry.
I mean,
but, like, the Sentry is pretty much Superman if he had bipolar disorder.
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much exactly that.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
That's exactly what he is. And, yeah, I mean, it's someone... I forgot who made this, but, like, DC comics are, like, if your parents told you superhero stories.
Yeah.
Where Marvel comics were like your peers.
Right. And
trying to connect with you on like a personal level. And I mean, even like going back to like Stan's soapbox in the comics that he used to write in the, 50s, 60s, and 70s. It really started in the mid 60s when he started doing the Stan's soapbox. But, there was like a moral tag attached to a lot of the stories on, what he felt like was right. And you know what? To his credit, Stan Lee got on the right side of history in a lot of different ways.
He did.
He did. So that guy's, I know there was some like heat over the weekend with comments that like Bill Maher made, and
we don't really need to get too far into it, but like
no, I just felt like that's the kind of stuff that does the legacy a disservice. Is like you don't have to like comics and you don't have to be a comic book fan, but you can respect what someone did for a medium and for a fan base
and for pop culture in general,
and not to dumb down your audience and not to speak down to them, but to connect with them.
Right.
Exactly. So you create a dialogue. However, if it reaches people on a really core level, great. If it just kind of grazes by them, that's okay too.
Whatever. So at any rate, Dan and I are going to be sitting down, and I mean, like we just said, Stan Lee had this massive legacy of just all these characters that some of them are my absolute favorites. Spider-Man obviously being the biggest out of all of them, but then there was
X-Men.
also X-Men,
Fantastic Four,
Iron Man,
Incredible Hulk.
I don't give him credit for Thor.
No.
I don't really give him too much credit for Thor.
Yeah, that's
Norse mythology.
Right. That's the world's oldest religion.
Right.
Norse mythology is like the world's oldest religion.
I thought Greek was, but whatever.
No, I'm pretty sure it's Norse. It's like, well, because Norse, the hard thing about Norse is that there's like no written, all of the written accounts that they have of Norse mythology is taken from a time when like Christianity was already like starting to infuse with it. So it's very much up for debate. And this is like one of those things where it's like paintings on caves and like runes carved into stones that they can try to date it, but there's no like hard and fast answer. I forget what the term for it is.
So for all we know, technically speaking, we could go to a mount.
Odiism, I think is the term. After Odin. Is like the term is like kind of the general term for.
Oh.
I mean, it gets wrapped into paganism, but it's not really that. Like,
right.
But yeah, it is like one of the old. But like, yeah, you're right. Like, probably like oldest recorded is probably either Greek or Egyptian.
Right.
But like, I'm pretty sure the world's oldest is like, I think it's Odiism.
We'll have to look into that at some point at a later podcast, because right now, so I know we just went over that with Stan Lee and his contribution to comic books, but I think it's safer to say at this point, at least as far as the general public is concerned, most people are familiar with the movies more than anything now at this point, day and age, which is fine, which is great, because for the most part the movies are good. And of course, the one thing that reigns true for about, what would you say, like 95% of the Marvel movies is the Stan Lee cameo.
I mean, he's even now like in the Netflix shows and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., he just shows up in like a picture.
He's even showed up in the cartoons and everything.
Oh, yeah, he was in, he did.
He was in Amazing Spider-Man, or Ultimate Spider-Man, whatever it was.
He was in, he was in the Amazing Spider-Man, like the original, like 94?
No. Was he in the, yeah, he was in that one, actually.
That was the series finale of that show, was Stan Lee and Spider-Man.
Hanging out. That was such a, that's one of those.
That did not make my list.
No, that did not make my list either, but in case you can't tell, we're counting down our top 5 picks for the best Stan Lee cameos. And these don't have to be, for the record, because we know Stan Lee has cameoed in many of other things outside of Marvel.
Everything.
He's cameoed in just about everything. I'm surprised he never cameoed in a DC movie, for God's sakes.
Right.
Like, just because.
He did. He was in Teen Titans Go. He was in the Teen Titans Go movie.
He was?
He did an audio cameo.
I did not see the Teen Titans Go movie.
I just happened to see it the other day. It like came up because Twitter feed was full of this stuff. It was like best Stan Lee cameos, and one of them was like just because he was in a DC property,
right?
Like they gave him a cameo.
I mean, they did make jokes about Deathstroke looking like Deadpool, so but that kind of part for the course. But at any rate, so for this list, the number one rule, the two biggest rules are, first off, we're not going to do this whole one per franchise thing. No, because there's just too many.
No. If we did my God, we'd be here all night.
Well,
Hour 16, Stan Lee cameo, take 25. Excelsior.
True believers.
Stan Lee was once on a cereal box. Only featured in Singapore.
But what I mean is, like, we don't need, like, for example, he's been in every single Captain America movie.
Yep.
We don't need to worry about that or anything like that. No.
I'm just giving my top 5 and an honorable mention across everything. Whether it was, my only prerequisite was that it had to be like a visual medium. You know what I mean? Exactly. Like, couldn't be a comic book.
Right. Well, aren't comic books technically visual?
Okay. Yeah. All right. So I didn't mean that, but like
movie or TV.
Yeah, movie or TV.
Yeah. There we go.
You're right. Comic books are technically a visual medium.
Yeah. So without,
I think technically everything is if you have eyes.
Right. So I think with that having been said, and it doesn't have to be a Marvel property. It does not have to be a Marvel property.
No, I don't know. I don't have that rule.
Yeah, no, exactly. So it could just be anything because he's cameoed in. He's made a couple cameos in The Simpsons. He's made a couple cameos in, like.
Was he a head in the jar in Futurama?
Huh? I wouldn't be surprised.
I'm gonna look it up.
I would put dollars to donuts that it was.
I don't think so.
Stan Lee Futurama. I wouldn't be surprised. But at any rate, it doesn't really matter.
No. I don't think so.
Okay. Well, at any rate, with that being said, why don't we just go right ahead and just delve right into it? We're going to count down, Dan and I are going to count down our list for the top 5 Stan Lee cameos.
Boom, 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 boom.
We should probably get some sort of theme music for whenever we do these things now.
Yeah, we should.
Yeah.
Little stingers.
Yeah. So with that being said, Dan, do you want to lead off or should I lead off?
Go for it, Kyle.
Alrighty. So for me, I am going to actually go with Stan Lee's cameo in Spider-Man #2. The one with Tobey Maguire. The scene where they're just looking outside and, they're just looking at the newsreel or whatever it was, the ticker, and it's just giving news information about Spider-Man, and then Stan Lee just pops up next to Tobey Maguire saying, I guess one man can make a difference.
Oh, so Spider-Man 2.
Spider-Man 2.
Okay, not The Amazing Spider-Man 2.
No, not The Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Okay, cool. Gotcha.
Yeah. Spider-Man 2. Why, did I say Amazing Spider-Man 2?
No, I'm pretty sure he also does pretty much the exact same scene in The Amazing Spider-Man 2 where he's talking to Andrew Garfield, like, outside. Like, I'm pretty sure they almost
No,
do the
his cameo in Amazing Spider-Man 2 was at the very beginning where he's in the crowd for the graduation. They got Stan Lee's cameo out of the way early now. I watched a video of the top of all Stan Lee's cameos to prepare for this. So
you did more research than I did.
Yeah, I mean, this one, first off, I'm going to say it right here, right now. It is the least funny out of all the cameos that I've put on my list.
That's fair.
It is the least funny, but I feel it needed to be on this list just because, as we were talking about earlier with like Stan Lee and his whole, how he was trying to be on the right side of history and everything like that. It just ties in with that. So That's basically the main reason why I put it on there.
Okay.
Every other cameo on this list is either going to be really funny or,
dumb.
Yeah.
All right. So my number 5?
Yes.
Number 5. That's what we should have.
Yeah.
The number 5. I picked The Amazing Spider-Man.
Okay.
Yeah, with Andrew Garfield. I don't like these movies.
But that cameo was hilarious.
I was
actually thinking about putting that cameo on my list.
Where he's in the library.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, he's
just organizing the books when there's a fight happening right behind him.
With the lizard and Spider-Man. Yeah. It was just great because it happened in a really, like, tense part of the movie.
Yeah.
And, like, it was a weird way to, like, break it up with some humor, which is always what you like to see in a Spider-Man film, is that it, like, just injected some lightheartedness. I mean, there's a line in, like, the new Spider-Man PlayStation game where, like, Spider-Man makes, like, a joke at a really tense time. Spider-Man makes a joke at a really, like, important time with Dr. Octavius before he's Doc Ock. He's like, sorry, I have a bad habit of making jokes at really stressful situations. And you're like, yep. That's how we like our cameos. That's how we like our Stan.
Exactly. All right. So shall we move on?
Yeah.
Okay. For my number 4, the Deadpool strip club scene.
Oh, great one. That was going to make it onto my list, but I just didn't. I felt like I didn't have space for it.
Yeah, no, I understand.
It could have been my honorable mention, but
yeah. Well, for me, the reason why I put it on here is because this is the most different out of all the other Stan Lee cameos, in the sense that there are fucking boobs everywhere.
Yeah,
there are boobs everywhere. I mean,
there's like a whole genre of Stan Lee cameos of him just being like a creepy weirdo.
Right, exactly.
Like, there's a bunch of them. Like, I know in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1, he's like hitting on like some 20-year-old girl.
Right.
There's the Deadpool one where, and in the new Spider-Man in Homecoming, he's like trying to mack it to like one of the neighbors. Like one of like the other elderly.
Kinda, sorta, but not really. Like I kind of feel like that's just your typical like old people who live nearby each other conversation.
It felt creepy though. It was like, hey, is your husband gone? Like,
I don't know. I kind of because. Look, can we just be real here? Like, I know what this list is all about, but let's be real here. Like, the vast majority of Stan Lee cameos, if you took them out of the movie, would you really miss them? The answer is yes, because it's a Stan Lee cameo.
Yeah, obviously.
But it's like, most of them are just kind of like, Stan Lee's in the background. Like, blink and you miss him kind of a thing. You know?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, but this one, like, you can't really miss him because, first off, he's being loud, he's being bombastic, and of course... He's a DJ at a strip club.
All I'm saying is that there's a subsection of Stan Lee cameos of him just being a creepy weirdo.
Oh, yeah. I'm not arguing that at all. I'm not arguing that at all.
Yeah.
I'm not going to argue that at all. All right. So, your turn?
I have at my number 4, Fantastic Four 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an awesome one. It happens right at the beginning, just like Amazing Spider-Man. Spider-Man, the Amazing Spider-Man 2 happens right at the beginning, and there's also a small subsection of Stan Lee cameos where Stan Lee is actually Stan Lee.
Right.
There's not many of them.
Right.
There's only a couple.
This might be the only one, actually.
I think there's another. I've got another 2 in my head that I know he's Stan Lee in. But this one is great because he gets invited to Reed Richards and Sue Storm's wedding right before the Silver Surfer arrives. And he's trying to get in, and he's not on the guest list. And he's like, "No, my name should be there. I'm Stan Lee."
Yeah.
Like, no, and the guy's like, "Dude, I don't see you on the list. You got to get out of here." And like, that was just such. It was just such a great moment. It was just such a great nod.
It might be the best scene in the whole movie.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
Other than that, there's nothing else you need to
We
watch.
should also clarify that not all these movies are good.
That's not why we're ranking them.
No, that's not why we're ranking them at all. No. So moving on, this is going to seem a little redundant, but fuck you, it's my list. The Deadpool 2 trailer.
Oh.
Where Deadpool pops out of the phone booth in full costume, and then Stan Lee goes, "Hey, great costume," and then Deadpool looks right at him and says, "Zip it, Stan Lee!" Just because I'm putting it on this list simply because that this is the cameo I wanted in a Deadpool movie. Mm-hmm. Just because it's Deadpool, his whole thing is about breaking the fourth wall and calling out shenanigans and bullshit and, like, repetitive tropes within, like, comic book movies and everything like that. And, like, what's more of a trope in a Marvel movie than a Stan Lee cameo?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, so just him straight up calling it out and just acknowledging it. Like, it's just incredibly meta, it's incredibly Deadpool, and it just works out so perfectly.
I like that one. Yeah. I loved that trailer.
Yeah.
Because he really didn't get a cameo in Deadpool 2. He was just on a billboard.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, he wasn't actually in the movie at any point.
Right. Well, I mean, like, he was in the trailer, so...
Yeah, no, that's fine. They got it out of the room.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, where are we? 3? So my number 3...
Yep.
Yeah, my number 3. Avengers Age of Ultron.
Where he was the general drinking the liquor?
I don't know that he was a general. But
he was a general.
He was one of Steve Rogers' old war buddies.
Right.
And like we stormed the beaches of Iwo Jima. I think we can handle, or Normandy. We stormed the beaches of Normandy. I think we can handle some of whatever your fancy liquor is there, Thor. And he's just totally
bombed
totally
after one
TKO'd. Excelsior. I also love that we got an Excelsior out of that because it's not also something that we get out of a lot of Stan Lee cameos.
Right. Exactly. I mean, most of his cameos, he's just dead silent.
He's dead silent, or he gives some kind of like quippy joke. Like I feel like we got more quippy jokes as time went on. Like
yeah, exactly.
I felt like early on. Well, no, because even in like the Hulk cameo, like I'm talking Hulk, like Eric Bana Hulk.
Oh yeah.
He's like ripping it up with
Lou Ferrigno.
With Lou Ferrigno, he's like, I told him we got to get more security around here. This place anybody can break into here.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like
right, exactly.
Stan just loved being on camera.
He did.
He just loved it.
He did.
God bless that man.
Mm-hmm. Moving on to number 2.
Yeah.
For me, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
Ah, fuck you.
You were gonna pick that one too?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, for me, it's...
We're gonna have some overlap at the top of the...
Yeah, for me, the reason why I'm saying Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is because for years now, there's been the internet fan theory, and this is one of the few times where I love internet fan theories because of the way this one panned out, that he is one of the Watchers.
Mm-hmm.
And so what do they do in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2? He's just sitting on a rock in a spacesuit floating through space.
He's the one
talking to the Watchers.
He's the one above all. He's not even a Watcher. He's the one above all. He's beyond the the Beyonder.
He's beyond the Beyonder.
He's beyond the Beyonder.
Which, by the way, I've always kind of hated that name for a character.
The Beyonder?
Yeah.
I know.
It's kind of lazy.
It's super lazy.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's Marvel. They've got a lot of lazy. I mean, like, I remember Stan Lee saying that he named a lot of his characters with, like, alliteration, so that way he could remember them, like Peter Parker, Bruce Banner,
well, I mean, like,
Sue Storm.
Even DC does it too. Clark Kent, Lois Lane, Lex Luthor.
Right. Bruce Wayne. Wait, nope.
Nope. I was about to say Barry Allen. Nope.
Nope. Yeah.
There's gonna be
Hal
another
Jordan. No.
Yeah, there's gonna be another one out there somewhere.
I mean, like Martian Manhunter is John Jones, and his Martian name is pretty much like John Jones.
John Jones.
It's just spelled differently with like Z's and apostrophes in weird places.
Exactly.
And you're like, how the fuck do I pronounce this?
Right. Exactly.
But like, it's always weird because like, whatever. I hate that. Anyways.
Yeah. At any rate.
And I really like the Martian Manhunter, but that always really pissed me off.
Yeah. His weakness is fire. Yeah, no shit, his weakness is fire.
Everybody's weakness is fire.
Yeah. All right. So, Dan, moving on to your number 2?
My number 2, Mallrats.
Okay, we're gonna have some serious overlap happening right now.
Okay, I felt like we might have swapped our ones and twos.
We definitely did.
We did.
We definitely. So why don't we just talk about them both then?
All right. So we're okay. So
my number 1 is Mallrats. Your number 2 is Mallrats. Your number 1 is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. My number 2 is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
Bingo.
Yeah,
Bingo.
exactly.
You got it. The Mallrats one was so great, and especially definitely the longest cameo we ever got. It was a full scene.
I think it was like 2 full scenes.
Well, he's in 2 back-to-back. Yeah, he's in 2 back-to-back sequences. Right. He's in one scene with Brody, and then he's in another scene with remember the other guy's name. Yeah, Jason Lee, and then the other guy. And then I just love that he's like, I gave him the old soliloquy from "Love be a vulture tonight." Like, I haven't even seen that recently. I still remember that. Like that I just remember just being like the dumbest thing. And meanwhile, the whole time Brody is just wondering about the Fantastic Four's sexual appendages, and I think you gotta get your friend some help.
Right? No, that's the number 1 thing. But the reason why I personally am putting that as my number 1 is because that is the cameo that actually has the most weight to the plot out of any other movie he's been in.
It's really not. Yeah, I mean, like everything else is just kind of like I mean, maybe with the exception of like Thor's haircut,
right?
You know, that had anything to do with it, because it really kind of like set up Thor's look for the next 3 movies, you know.
Yeah, next couple of movies.
I doubt that Thor's going back to the long hair for the next movie. So, other than like long-standing consequences of like a haircut,
by Odin's band, don't you cut my hair?
Right? No, that one was awesome, and it definitely played such a huge part into the third act of Mallrats. And that movie is great, and that soundtrack is great.
Yeah.
And I mean, you know, we had Daredevil was in it, Ben Affleck.
Oh yeah, that's right, he was in it.
Yeah.
Uh huh. I wonder if one had anything to do with the other. Probably not. But probably not. But yeah, that for me, like that, for me, it's just like I felt like I had to put it at my number 1 just because, like I said, it had more weight to the entire plot of the movie than any other cameo.
Sure.
Yeah, exactly. So,
absolutely.
But Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, I loved it because it's like the most loving middle finger to the fan base. Yeah. It really is. It's like, I love you, but go fuck yourself.
Yeah. I love the Guardians of the Galaxy. That was one of the ones that, like, sometimes the Stan Lee cameos feel kind of shoehorned. Yeah. You know, sometimes they do feel really forced, and you feel... But
namely the one in Black Panther. I felt that one was really forced.
Yeah, that one was really weird, especially given the context of that entire scene where they were in South Korea, and... Yeah, but Stan Lee's just there.
Yeah, but where else could they have shoehorned him in? Like,
no. There was
there's no other place.
No, he couldn't have just popped up in Wakanda.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, why the fuck's he doing in Wakanda? There's
there's some that in
the history of Wakanda, there's only been like 3 white guys.
And there's some that were shoehorned, but then felt fine. Like at the end of Civil War with Stan Lee,
Tony Stank.
That
one was just funny.
That one was funny, but like it was definitely like shoehorned in there. But you were like, all right, that's fine. Yeah, I'm not mad about that one.
I'm not mad about that one.
Yeah, the Black Panther one was weird.
Yeah.
There was another one that was really weird that I was thinking of the other day that I can't remember. I didn't love the one that he had in Infinity Wars.
Oh, the bus driver?
Yeah, I didn't love that one.
I felt like that one was just kind of par for the course when it came to
that. It just felt like with a movie of just like such great big grand spectacle and scope, like that one. I was like, oh, that's the Stan Lee cameo. I was like, oh, all right. Yeah. I felt like we could have done better, but I'm not really one to critique what the hell they're doing over there. So
yeah, exactly.
You know, Because then I'm going to get put on the spot and be like, all right, Dan, what would you have done? I'd be like,
maybe made him one of the Cabal, or like, like the one man, like he could have been Ebony Maw, maybe?
Yeah, right. Oh, no.
No. Stan Lee carrying out a major role? No, absolutely not.
Except in Mallrats.
All right, Earth's closed today, Squidward.
What was your honorable mention?
I would have to say my honorable mention, I would have gone with either Amazing Spider-Man 2 cameo, or hell, I think I would have even gone maybe about as far as maybe even the Venom cameo, believe it or not. As much as I ragged on that movie, just, I don't know, I thought...
Where the hell was he in Venom?
Yeah, right. He's like Eddie's like talking to the symbiote, and he's like, we gotta get... What was the fiance's name again?
Not Felicity.
No, not Felicity.
I don't remember.
Yeah, exactly. He was just like
Like
yeah,
Maya.
both of you go get her, or something like that. He's like, both of you go get her, or something like that. I don't know. I don't
even remember Stan Lee in the Venom movie.
Yeah, exactly. I couldn't remember that one. I would have to say my real honorable mention would have been the Amazing Spider-Man scene in the library.
Yeah.
To be quite honest. Just because, like, he doesn't say anything, but he doesn't have to.
No, that was just such a great breakup from the action. And it was the same thing with, like, Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Like, in a moment where they're, like, zipping around the universe and, like, trying to get back to, the fight. And, like, it just felt really organic in both instances. And that's what I felt like I didn't like about the Avengers Infinity War cameo, was that it didn't feel organic. I was just like, oh, well, there's Stan Lee.
That was kind of a waste.
I guess we're good with that now. Like, check that box, you know.
Exactly. Or I'd actually go, maybe even Ragnarok. I like the Ragnarok.
The Ragnarok one is fantastic.
Yeah, it is.
That would be my honorable mention, except I have my honorable mention, the Incredible Hulk Stan Lee cameo. If you don't remember this is where Bruce Banner, played by Edward Norton, is like bleeding in the factory, and his blood gets into a soda bottle, which then gets shipped out and ends up in Stan Lee's fridge.
Oh yeah,
and he drinks it. So it means that it's somewhere in the Marvel universe, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
There's a Stan Lee with a radiated...
There's a Stan Lee Hulk. There's a Hulk Lee.
There's a Hulk Lee.
There's a Hulk Lee.
Right.
You couldn't even be Billy Batson.
Worst cameo ever. I
think the best cameo Stan Lee ever played was the one in Our Lives.
I'm gonna stick around for the credits.
Oh yeah, after the funeral.
After the funeral, yeah. See if he comes back.
Yeah, no,
I'm sure the writers will bring him back some way somehow.
No, you know what? I'm good. And like all the conversations about like, oh, Deadpool should take over for the Stan Lee cameos. I think that's a terrible idea.
Me too.
I think that we should use up whatever Stan Lee comic book, whatever Stan Lee footage is in the can. Until that's done, and after that, like, no more.
Yeah, maybe. Unless, of course, they do. Though I wouldn't be, just for a small joke, at least just for one movie, if they ever make a biopic about Stan Lee, I think whoever plays...
Oh, they will.
Yeah, well, whoever plays Stan Lee in the biopic should make at least one cameo as Stan Lee in the movie that comes out after, just to, like, just for the lull.
I think that... I feel like no. Like... Part of me wants to find a way to always kind of have that, but I think that we should be appreciative of the fact that we got them.
Right.
And we shouldn't try to, like, force and shoehorn in that I feel like it's a really emotional response that a lot of people are having. It's it's like, oh, we need to have Stan Lee in there somewhere. It's like, Stan Lee gave us, like...
so much.
65 plus years, of... great comic book entertainment. Like, he doesn't have to keep entertaining us from beyond the grave. Like, do the cameos that you already have filmed. I know that they already filmed the one for Far From Home, and I know that they have Infinity Wars. I'm sure they have the Captain Marvel one. So, and there's probably a fourth one that they've already shot and got some footage for in the can. But, like, I don't want to see Stan Lee, like, CG'd in.
Right. No, I don't want to CG Stan Lee.
Like they did with, like, Mos Tarkin in... Rogue One.
No.
I mean? Like, I don't want that.
I was more okay with the Tarkin CGI, just because, like, Tarkin plays a very important role in the story of the Death Star.
The only idea that I saw that I thought was great was that the opening Marvel credits for, like, the next couple Marvel films, you know how they do, like, it's more like the old Marvel Universe credits than the new ones, because the new ones, they do, like, that kind of ink splash watercolor of all the heroes, but when they used to, like, layer up all the comic book images on top of each other, and it would, like, have the page fluttering sound effect, like...
Right.
Like, to do that with all of, like, Stan Lee's cameos, That I thought was a nice tribute.
Okay, I'd do that. I'd be
that.
down
I
for
thought was a nice tribute. But like, I think that just at the end of every Marvel movie from here until the end of time, just dedicated to Stan Lee or in memory of Stan Lee. Like
exactly.
that can be our Stan Lee cameo from here on out. Like I don't want Deadpool to do it.
No, I don't want Deadpool to do it. I
don't want like
if for any reason at all Deadpool wasn't a Stan Lee creation.
No, he wasn't.
No. Liefeld.
Right. Yeah.
Probably the only good thing Liefeld ever did.
Nah.
Not the only good thing I should say, but probably the best.
I like Dex Force. I have no problem with Rob Liefeld's work. It's fine. I just think he can't draw feet.
Think or no?
No. No, he can't draw feet.
Yeah, no. But he can draw really, really big guns.
Yes, and lots of ammo patches.
Lot of pouches.
Lots of
pouches. So yeah, I guess that kind of do it for us. I mean, this was kind of a quick podcast, but I mean, there's nothing else I can really think of.
Just like a Stan Lee cameo. Blink and you'll miss it.
Exactly. All right, Dan, as always, thanks for being on the podcast.
Thank you, Kyle. Thank you, Stan.
Thank you, Stan. Stan, wherever you are, thanks for everything. If it wasn't for you, we probably wouldn't be doing this podcast.
Or we'd just be reviewing really terrible DC movies.
Exactly. Ugh. Ugh. Oh. All right, everybody, that's going to do it for us. Bye.